Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the International Agenda presented by the BJ Show. As always, I am your host, Aidan Barry, and in this one we are going to get into the opening of NBA and NHL free agency along with the NBA and NHL draft. So we're going to have this one being solely focused on the drafts and on free agency in the NBA and the NHL. With that said, let's get straight into the program tonight. And with the sound of that chime, it is draft time. We are going to start our NBA draft and free agency look before going on to the NHL. So, the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft, pretty much a unanimous number one selection in all the mock drafts. Cooper Flagg, forward, Duke, going to the Dallas Mavericks. At the number 2 pick, the San Antonio Spurs select Dylan Harper, guard, Rutgers. At the number 3 pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select VJ Edgecombe, guard, Baylor. At the number 4 pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Con Nepal, guard, Duke. At the number 5 pick, the Utah Jazz select Ace Bailey, guard, Rutgers. At the number 6 pick, the Washington Wizards select Trey Johnson, guard, Texas. At number 7, we have out of OU to the New Orleans Pelicans, Jeremiah Fear. At number 8, out of BYU at the guard spot, going to the Brooklyn Nets, Igor Demon. At number 9, from South Carolina, forward, going to the Toronto Raptors, Colin Murray Boyle. With the first 9 picks done in the draft, there were no trades. There was no trade action inside the first 9. And then as we go down into the draft, instead of going through picks one by one, I'm going to pick out deals that I find interesting, picks that I find interesting, trades that I find interesting. So we're going to keep going through the lottery. If there's a trade, I will let you know. There are a lot of trades coming up as well. So stay with me on this one. We're going to get through it. At pick 10, now this pick was traded from the Houston Rockets to the Phoenix Suns as part of the Kevin Durant trade. And at number 10, the Houston Rockets, therefore Phoenix Suns, select Carmen Maluk, center, Duke. At number 11, the Portland Trail Blazers select forward, Washington State, Cedric Coward. That pick is going to Memphis. At number 12, Chicago Bulls select Noah Esengwe, forward, from. At number 13, going to New Orleans, the Atlanta Hawks select out of Maryland, center Derek Queen. At number 14, acquired earlier in a trade from Atlanta, from Arizona, forward Carter Bryant. And that is your lottery done. I will now go through some other names that I found interesting in terms of how they fell in the draft. So we're going to go down to the 16 pick and the Portland Trail Blazers, who received pick 16 in that trade with Memphis. The 16th pick, rather unknown Chinese prospect Yang Hansen, picked at 16 by Memphis, goes to Portland. Players who I'm surprised fell in the draft at this point, we have at the 18th pick out of Florida, guard Walter Clayton Jr., that it's going to Utah. Another player that I'm surprised who fell in the draft is Kasparas Giannakis out of Illinois, guard, and that is going at the 20th pick to Miami. We then finish off the first round. There are a lot of players getting selected, seeing their NBA dreams realized. What I'm very interested in here is towards the back end of the first round, we have the Nets doubling up at 26 and 27. Both picks traded in, one from the Knicks, one from the Rockets. Is at first at 26. Ben Serra from Israel going to the Brooklyn Nets at 27. Forward center Danny Wolf going to Brooklyn as well. So Brooklyn really retooling, and we're going to get into that a little bit more later on as well. We're going to have a look now at round 2 for any names that really stick out in round 2. So round 2, again, NBA, there's only 5 players on court. I'm going to pick out some names that I thought were interesting. So we're going to start with pick 45, Rocco Zakowski, center out of Australia, from Chicago to Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota, one state. Then we will keep going down. We're going to try and find any more. Yes, we have another Australian player. We have a couple more Australian players picked up here. So first at pick 52, Alex Tui, forward, going to the Phoenix Suns. That's been traded to Golden State. And then at pick 55, Lachlan Albright out of Australia as well, forward, picked by the Lakers, going to the Chicago Bulls. That is your look at the 2025 NBA draft. Let's get straight into the NBA free agency and trades. Thus far, we had some other trades as well as the Kevin Durant trade go through during finals time, so we're looking to them as well as the trades and moves made early on in the offseason. And with the draft come and gone for this year in the NBA, it is now open season on the trade and free agency market as teams look to position themselves for season 2025-2026. We're going to try and keep this day by day to see how the market's shaping out, but if there are other moves made by teams that I know of, I will point those out as well. So we're going to start with the first deal past the Kevin Durant trade, which was the first real big domino fall that set a lot of other things into motion. We have the Portland Trail Blazers and the Boston Celtics executing a trade. So Portland receives Drew Holiday, Boston will receive Anthony Simons, 2 future second-round picks. Now for Portland, I don't know if Drew Holiday is going to stay around or be a trade piece later on down the line. Anthony Simons leaving does clear the way for Scottie Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe to assume the guard roles, which is, I believe, something that Portland wants to do, with Drew Holiday also being there to provide valuable leadership, mentorship to those young guys and help them out. I think Simmons in 2 future seconds is the right price for a guy like Drew Holiday. So my guys, Portland, will get Drew Holiday. I'm really excited to see him come down here as Boston clean out because of their cap situation with the Tatum injury. Then we have the Jordan Poole trade. So Jordan Poole and Saddiq Bey are going to the New Orleans Pelicans. CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk go to the Washington Wizards. There are second-round considerations in both of those way deals as well, so that also impacts that. But Jordan Poole, again, another fresh start for him, looking for a team he can really break out on. I think that New Orleans may be the team that allows him to take that next step in terms of his player development. Next big trade we have was between a three-wayer between Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn. Boston receives George Niang and second-round pick. Atlanta will pick up Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick, and the Brooklyn Nets pick up Terrence Mann and a first-round pick in the deal. So Boston again cleaning up their list, cleaning up their cap space issue with the Tatum injury. Another good deal for Boston there. Atlanta are looking like a team who are going to be very dangerous come 25-26 at this stage. If all of them stay healthy and they get on good form, they could be the Indiana Pacers of next year. Now, we have a trade for Mark Williams. Mark Williams originally was looking like he was going to be a LA Laker, but that fell through when he failed his medical. Now he's gone to the Phoenix Suns, with the Hornets getting Vasily Miricic, number 29 pick Liam McNeely, and a 2029 first-round draft pick. So Mark Williams getting out of Charlotte and getting to Phoenix in that one. Now the draft trades really begin. So as I mentioned earlier in the draft coverage, Blazers getting Yang Hansen for Cedric Howard. Blazers are also going to pick up 2 second-rounders and a 2028 pick first round via the Orlando Magic, who look like they could be dangerous. So that at the moment stands to be a back end. To close out the Derek Queen, Asar Newell deal, the Atlanta Hawks are also going to get a 2026 first-round pick out of the Pelicans. As I mentioned, Walter Clayton Jr. goes to the Jazz, originally from the Wizards. The Wizards receive Will Riley and Jameer Watkins, as well as 2031 and 2032 second-round pick. Other picks of note is going to be the Kings getting pick 24 guard Nikkei Clifford for the Thunder, receiving a 2027 first-round pick. So they're still definitely in the Oklahoma City Thunder. As I said, the Lakers have traded their pick. Suns traded their pick. Suns made a lot of trades. A lot more trades at draft day. Also, draft day news or free agency news. LeBron picking up his player option as well. So he'll stay at the Lakers again this year with his $50+ million player option. Not really a market for him, even if he was to climb the option as well. So that happens there. Apart from that, now we move to post-draft trade. So the first post-draft trade I want to talk about is the swap of Lonzo Ball and Isaac Okoro between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Chicago Bulls. I think Lonzo Ball getting a fresh start in Cleveland and Isaac Okoro, fair compensation for him going to Chicago. I think he was a wink link in a team who finished in the East 1 seed as well. So Oklahoma City trades some Jones as they pick up Colby Jones and give Dylan Jones to the Washington Wizards. We're going to keep going up. There was a big trade of note that happened earlier today, and it was the deal with the Nuggets and the Nets. So Nuggets deal Porter Jr. to Brooklyn Nets, they also receive a 2032 first-round pick for Cam Johnson. Really good sharpshooter is Johnson. Looking forward to see what he can bring to the Nuggets, who are definitely still in the championship window by my account. Then we finally have to close the trades here as of today. Nicole Alexander-Walker going to Atlanta for a 2027 second-round pick from Cleveland and cash considerations. Now, with all that done, teams shaping up to do well. It's definitely Atlanta. They are looking very, very dangerous. My team, the Portland Trailblazers, also made one more move, which is buying out Deandre Ayton. So Deandre Ayton now a free agent and out of Portland. So Portland clearly looking at a center rotational group of Duop Reith, Yang Hansen, and Donovan Clingan. I believe they're also trying to move Robert Williams III, so keep our eyes out for that one. But that is our NBA deals done. Let's move into some NHL. Time for a look at the 2025 NHL entry draft, and much like the NBA draft, there was a clear-cut consensus number one overall pick, and that was Matthew Schaefer out of Canada, and Erie Otters going to the New York Islanders at pick 1. At pick 2, the San Jose Sharks picked up Michael Misa out of Canada and the Saginaw Spirit. At pick 3, the Chicago Blackhawks picked up Anton Flundell out of Sweden, and Djurgårdens Hockey for the Utah Mammoth, the newly named Utah Mammoth, formerly Utah Hockey Club. So Caleb Dionnaires out of Montcalm Wildcats UMJHL. Pick 5, Ray Martin to the Nashville Predators out of Sault Ste. Marie. Pick 6, going to the Philadelphia Flyers, Porter Martone out of the Brandon Steelhead. Pick 7, James Hagens going to the Boston Bruins out of Boston College Eagle. Pick 8, Jake O'Brien going to the Seattle Kraken out of the Brantford Bulldogs. Pick 9, out of the Czech Republic and Seattle Thunderbirds to the Buffalo Sabres is Radim Mertka. At pick 10 to the Anaheim Ducks from the Brandon Wheat King out of Canada, it's Roger McQueen, and that is your top 10. As I did with the NBA draft earlier in the show, I will now go through the NHL draft and pick out some names I thought slid or rose up and down the order. And we're going to go down. The first name that I thought of interest was Victor Eklund to the New York Islanders from Djurgårdens. He goes to the Islanders, Victor. Then we go down there. Our first goalkeeper is Pyotr Andreyanov from the Krasnaya Armia of the Russian Hockey League, going to the Columbus Blue Jackets. We go down. Second goalie selected was Joshua Ravensburg to the San Jose Sharks. Pick received from Dallas out of the Prince George Cougars. So very, very strong names in that first round, going to some very, very strong teams in hockey. We're going to go down into the second round and see if we can pick out any names, especially out of the world of hockey. So we have a Chinese, Hao Wang from the Oshawa Generals of the OHL, going to the San Jose Sharks. I could go through the rest of the draft, but we would be here all night, so we're going to leave it at that top 33 selections. And all I can say from a collector's point of view, it is going to be a great year for UDYG's upper deck young guns in S1, S2, and SE. So I am very, very excited about the prospects coming in to the NHL. Now we're going to have a look at some NHL free agency and see if there's been any major moves happen already, as NHL free agency has also begun. NHL free agency for 2025 has opened as well, as I will go through all the deals for all the teams as they come in over the next couple of months. But we're going to start today by looking at some moves made early on in the trade space. So a lot of re-signings as well in the NHL, so big names getting re-signed. Patrick Kane returning to the Detroit Red Wings, annual value of $3 million, so good deal there. Marner on a sign and trade to the Vegas Golden Knights. So Mitch Marner who's the top free agent, will enter into an 8-year contract with the Vegas Golden Knights in trade for Nicholas Roy. Marner coming off a great year, 102 points and 3 other 90-point seasons before that. 5th in Leafs history in points, so a genuine star of the game going to Vegas right there. Cats signing up Brad Marchand as well, so he'll stay there. Same with Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett after winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. Cats still keeping that group together. Blue Jackets reaching deal with Provorov. He'll get $8.5 million over 7 years if current information is correct. Kings re-signing Kuzmenko to a 1-year deal. His new deal is less. It'll make it only $4.3 million this year. Oilers bring back Evan Bouchard, so will average $10.5 million over 4 years in that deal. Evan Bouchard, good deal there for the Oilers. Panthers, as I said, reached terms with Ekblad. Islanders are re-signing Romanov, reported hit of $6.25 million. Leafs are acquiring Matthias Micheli from the Mammoth. Mammoth getting in return a conditional 2027 third rounder there. So Micheli, 24, fresh start. Had a really tough time in Utah last year, but gets a fresh start on a strong program in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Detroit Red Wings have made a deal to the Minnesota Wild. Vladimir Tarasenko, after winning 2 Stanley Cups, disappointed this year in Detroit. Couldn't get on the ice for more than 15 minutes a game. His contract's $4.75 million to the Wild. They're getting that great secondary line scoring at a good price as well. So that is a good deal there. Detroit picking up future cash considerations in return. Whalers retaining Kapanen for $1.3 million. There's been a trade between the Predators and the Golden Knights. So Nashville Predators acquiring Nicholas Hague and conditional third rounder from Golden Knights in exchange for forward Colton Sessions and defenseman Jeremy Lauzon. Nashville will retain 50% of Sessions' salary to complete the deal. If Vegas wins 2 rounds in the 2026 playoffs, the Golden Knights will move a second round pick instead. So that is the conditional third. If they get to the third round of the playoffs this year, that becomes a second rounder. Bruins in the mix, re-signing players, re-signing Henry Uriharu, John Beecher, and Michael DiPietro. Uriharu, the big standout there, with 4 assists in 18 games after coming over from Buffalo during the deadline. Morgan Geeky's also signed a 6-year deal at $5.5 million average after a $33 year, so good sign for Morgan Geeky. Claude Giroux staying in a bonus-laden deal with the Sens, so we're doing very good with Dante Fabro staying with the Blue Jackets as well. So many of the top names already moved or staying in place, so as I said, I'll keep an eye out for any major deals that take place in either the NBA or the NHL. If something major happens, I will update you straight away if I see anything. But that is all I have time for on this week's episode of the International Agenda. It has been a draft and free agency recap for week 1 of the NBA and NHL free agency. As always, I've been your host, Aidan Barry. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.